on the multi-view.
Yep.
Hopefully, we're space nerds. We love talking about this stuff. Hopefully you sort of feel like you're here and you're part of our team, because you're like our remote production crew.
I mean, we always say, you know, if you're going to a launch, watch it with your eyes, because you know, you will really experience it in that case versus a cell phone video. And I often say, and I'm sure you feel the same way, when we're operating cameras, we're in the moment and we're working, so we're not really experiencing it for ourselves. We're literally giving you out there in viewerland our eyes and our ears, and we're not using them ourselves. Like, it's a whole thing. So thank you for all the support, for allowing us to use our eyes and ears to give you guys eyes and ears out in viewerland.
We do have some pretty cool eyes and ears though. Like, so anyways, I think that's going to be us up here on the roof right now. Again, we're South Padre Island. It's the Margaritaville Beach Resort here. I was totally not hanging out at the pool earlier. What a way to start the morning here at the hotel. But in any event, we will kick it back to your regular team. We're going to be up here ready to go. Let's see if we get a lunch here in a little bit.
Hi, Bunny, if you're watching.
Das and Jack on the roof of the Margaritaville Hotel there. Always great to see them setting up the equipment. And somehow they now have an awning. They didn't have an awning when I visited. Like, that's like, legitimately, that is a brand new addition between yesterday and today, thanks to your guys' support. In addition to all of our incredible field team, we of course have all of our Starbase Live operators literally around the world right now, controlling these cameras remotely. So it's a big shout out to those guys as well. Also, a big shout out to everybody in the support queue right now. We've been getting so much support, such as this €5 support from Dasha there. We also have Darren in chat. Thank you so much for the 10 Canadian dollars in there as well. John White has become a Capcom member. Hopefully you enjoy your access to the Discord server. We have Adrian, you're like this one, $10 supporting from the Kansas coast there, Adrian. We also have Rafrif in chat, the $10 support there as well. Thank you so much for the support there. We also have Fazario, sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly, on holiday in Turkey, saying they missed the first attempt due to being on the plane, the second attempt very late, hopefully the third is the one that actually goes, because yeah, fellow UK tank watcher, it is a little bit late here in Europe, but we're staying up, we're pushing through. Fingers crossed we get a launch in 52 minutes time when the window opens. Chris Parker as well, one of those names that's in chat quite often, £10 super chat, thank you so much for the support. Let's actually have that launch as well. I think Turtle was a big fan of the Kevin's behind the scenes camera here, because they did 2 super chats about it. Thank you for the support. Couple people as well becoming Capcom members. Matt Thompson, Frederick Willems, thank you so much for supporting the show as always. Fosco in chat, thank you so much as well, saying that it's been great to spend the last 3 days with us. It's been great to spend the last 3 days with you as well.
Yeah, it's been a few days, you know, this is kind of unprecedented.
Starship, это явно... Сколько всего в этом сове. Это явно самая легендарная ракета в истории, и на данный момент единственная реальная надежда человечества на межпланетное будущее, на то, что космические полеты станут доступными для всех. Ведь Starship — это первая в истории полностью многоразовая ракета, так и с огромной грузоподъемностью в 150 тонн, которая будет только расти. И он станет самой дешевой ракетой в истории. Он начал свой путь еще в 2000-х годах с проекта Falcon XX, затем в 2012 году проект Mars Colonial Transporter, в 2016 году с проекта ITS. С того момента дизайн еще очень много раз менялся, и в 2019 году была объявлена программа Starship. С 2019 года здесь в Starbase строились различные прототипы, тестовые стенды и много чего другого. Иногда даже были полеты, некоторые из которых были успешными. И теперь SpaceX нацелена на 26 августа на стартовый окно с 23:30 по ETC, по 27 августа 00:30 по ETC на запуск 10-го полета Буста 16 Ship 37. Изначально запуск был запланирован еще на 24 августа, но был перенесен из-за проблем с заправкой корабля. А попытка 25 августа была отменена из-за погоды. И вообще, изначально в полет еще должен был отправиться корабль Ship 36, но он успешно взорвался при подготовке к прошлому 18 июня, тем самым уничтожив стенд для их испытаний Месси, из-за чего вот этот корабль Ship 37 пришлось прожигать прямо вот здесь, на модифицированном орбитальном стартовом столе. И да, всем привет, с вами Space, вы попали на уже 3-ю, мать его, попытку 10-го испытательного орбитального интегрированного полета Starship Booster 16 Ship 37 миссии IFT-10, ну либо же просто Flight 10. Сразу же в начале описания 2 ссылки на предыдущие переносы. В первом переносе я полностью подробно рассказывал всю историю Старшипа, начиная еще от Falcon XX в 2000-х годах, а также всю историю вообще всех полетов, ну, прям впритык до 10-го этого полета. И также запускал его в КСП, показывал, как будет выглядеть, ну, как, по крайней мере, как должен выглядеть этот полет. А во втором переносе я подробно рассказал о аппаратах, которые у нас, собственно, полетят в этом полете, об всех их испытаниях и изменениях. По таймлайну у нас уже должна была начаться на 53 минутах еда. У нас началась заправка. Ну, а сначала у нас еще за 6 часов 34 минуты до запуска было перекрытие дороги. Затем началась заправочная инфраструктура за 2 часа 55 минут до запуска. И уже за 53 минуты до запуска в 22:56 по EDC у нас началась заправка. И у нас также уже должна была начаться вообще официальная прямая трансляция от SpaceX. И да, она есть. Поэтому так, сейчас. Так.
Adrian, I'm just curious if you could give us a little rundown of the timeline, because T-minus 53 minutes, which was about 5 minutes ago now, that is when that ship methane load starts. Do we know when the...
Так. Это сюда, это куда? Это... Нет, это сюда, вот это сюда, а вот это сюда.
Hello and welcome to Starbase, Texas, or what we here at SpaceX like to call the Gateway to Mars. I'm Amanda Lee, a build reliability engineer at SpaceX.
And I am Dan Hewitt with SpaceX Communications. Everybody, welcome back to Starbase. If you've been following along, today is going to mark the third attempt to get our 10th Starship flight test off the ground. First one was back on Sunday. We stood down then to troubleshoot an issue with some of our ground systems, had a leaky hose. We replaced that, got to our attempt yesterday, lost our battle with the weather gods and some anvil clouds in the area, but we're hoping the third time is the charm.
Yeah, fingers crossed for sure.
Yeah, so at the moment, we are actively loading propellant onto the vehicles. Our engineers are on console, monitoring the vehicle, all of the systems as we count down to liftoff. Prop load is underway. We are looking better on the weather this time, good on the range, and we are targeting the very beginning of our window at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Our objectives for today, really with the ship, are going to look very similar to the last couple of launches, looking to deploy those Starlink simulator satellites, fly a whole bunch of experiments during Starship's reentry, testing the limits of its heat shield and its flaps. Ultimately, we want to see ship do controlled descent, soft splashdown in the Indian Ocean. That's really what we're looking for today. Regardless of the outcome, though, goal is always to collect as much data as possible. That gets us one step closer to a fully operational Starship.
That's right, and either way, flight tests guarantee the maximum level of excitement, and Starship will allow us to fly the heaviest payloads ever flown and ultimately fly humans further into space than ever before, even all the way to Mars, as we always talk about. Our progress here at SpaceX is measured by getting closer to establishing a self-sustaining civilization on Mars, and these are the flights that are...
Итак, как мы видим, да, у нас началась официальная прямая трансляция на отметке за 50 минут до запуска, и следующая этапа, которая у нас будет, это на отметке 19 минут до запуска, точнее 19 минут 40 секунд до запуска у нас начнется охлаждение 33 двигателей на первой ступени. А пока вкратце по что у нас есть по этому запуску. А вот, да, вот 26 августа, так где? Вот, официальное вчерашнее заявление. Обратный отчет до 10-го летного испытания Starship. Погода на данный момент была благоприятна на 55%. И далее. Т 40 секунд и удерживание. Команды использовали это время для финальных поверок. Все системы продолжают выглядеть хорошо, кроме погоды. И вот. Из-за того, что погода не меняется во время старта в окна, эта попытка запуска становится VDR на сегодня. У нас есть официальное подтверждение попытки сегодня, во вторник, 26 числа. Далее, вчера на трансляции SpaceX также показали разрушение канистры диффузора, вот той, из-за которой, собственно, и случилась у нас авария Ship-35. Вот. Вот, прям трещина большая, и все, и капец. Далее. Так, нет, это мы пропустим. Вот, сегодня у нас уже началась, это уже говорится, работа с заправочной инфраструктурой, вентиляцией. И вот, что у нас еще было. Протечка жидкости на орбитальном стартовой столе, прямо на ОЛМ. Но ее быстро успели устранить. Вот. Обратный отчет до 10-го полета Starship продолжается. Погода по состоянию, например, на час ночи по московскому времени, то есть на 22 ночи, на 22 вечера по EDC, составляет примерно 45% Go for Launch в течение 60-минутного окна. Илон Маск, у Starship версии 4 будет 42 двигателя, когда еще 3 раптора вакуумных будут добавлены к существующему удлиненному кораблю. Он полетит в 2027 году. Starship версии 3 это массовая модернизация текущего версии 2. Он должен пройти через стадии производства и тестирования к концу года с началом активных полетов в следующем году. Также верхняя часть Ship 39.1 заехала в Мегабайт 2 для соединения с средней секцией Ship 39.1. Это тестовый баг, предназначен предположительно для структурных испытаний корпуса версии 3. Топ-флаг информация, когда до запуска оставалось еще примерно 3 часа. Пока есть время, давайте поговорим про погоду. Почему нам вызывает столько проблем, будет ли так всегда и так далее. Сразу дисками. Про процедуру лучше расскажут метеорологи, а тут про влияние на полеты. Короткий ответ. Погода может быть непредсказуема, а это влияет на оценку рисков. Если их нельзя просчитать, то не будет пуска. Помимо ключевых атмосферных условий есть два, на которые смотрят представление всего: ветер и облака, причем конкретные виды облаков, грозовые тучи, непредсказуемые застранцы. Добавьте к этому прибрежную зону ближе к экватору, где условия будут меняться еще быстрее. К слову, в Флориде похожая проблема, поэтому маленькое облако может превратиться в большую проблему за считанные минуты. Ветер же подразумевает угрозу не у поверхности, а именно на высоте в 10-15 км. Помните турбулентность в самолете на эшелоне? Все эти же проблемы будут намного хуже на пару километров выше, и как раз в зоне прохождения максимального аэродинамического сопротивления. Сильные непредсказуемые порывы ветра на этом этапе могут, например, повлиять на подачу топлива из-за вибрации и тряски. И ключевое, все эти параметры важны не только в одной точке старта, а по всей траектории полета в атмосфере и разных условиях высоты, поэтому область наблюдения за погодой очень обширная, и идеальные условия у поверхности могут не соответствовать таковым на высоте и дальше от площадки. Дождь зависит от объема осадков молнии. Есть громотводы, попадание молнии в ракету. Вспоминаем Аполлон-12, туман, тучи и так далее. Влияет на видимость, но это не самый критичный фактор. Хотя в тестовой программе очень важна видимость для камер сопровождения на Земле. Будет ли так всегда для программы Starship? Нет. По мере наработки летной эксплуатации и выхода из этапа активной разработки требования по погоде будут снижаться. В туман Starship уже летал и падал даже. Также не забываем, что если ракету заправляет, на пуск рассчитывает и будут стараться дождаться улучшения вплоть до конца окна запуска. Вчера же сдерживающим фактором была невозможность держать ракету долго на площадке после заправки. Расходники для заправки тоже не бесконечны, особенно после предыдущей попытки. Так что смотрим в светлое во всех смыслах. Будущее через несколько десятков минут. Вот, а вот теперь по состоянию на буквально 20 минут назад команда Starship готова к загрузке топлива. Погода сейчас была вероятна для старта на 55% в начале стартового окна.
into the future that I imagined and dreamed of as a child, where starships with people are out among the stars exploring the universe.
Yeah, so the why, it's always important to explain the why of things.
Ну и пока новой информации нету, поэтому, ну что сказать, ожидаем запуска. Ну или же очередного переноса.
For two main reasons. One is to ensure the long-term survival and prosperity of life as we know it in consciousness, which if we are a multi-planet species and ultimately a multi-stellar species out there among the stars, the probability of survival is much, much longer. That's kind of the, defensive aspect or life insurance for life collectively. But then there also need to be things that are inspiring and exciting and that give you reason to live. Life cannot just be about solving one tragic problem after another. There must be also reasons to get up in the morning and be excited about the future. And a future where we are a spacefaring civilization is infinitely more exciting than one where we are not.
And we're doing it all pretty unique location. I mean, the pad's behind us. We got rocket on the tower. We got another tower with it. We're sitting inside Star Factory. And I mean, it wasn't like this for very long. This is all pretty brand new.
Yeah, I think we moved Starship here in about the early part of 2019. So we've been coming that entire time and seeing the site evolve from a double-wide trailer and a tent where we built Starhopper to the first suborbital test flights. And now we have behind us 2 towers for the first time as we build towards the first operational flight from the second tower at the end of this year. And this beautiful building, 1 million square feet, where we're able to work towards a production line of Starships.
Yeah, the SpaceX team has done an incredible job of building out really the most advanced rocket manufacturing facility that has ever existed. This is far beyond any rocket fabrication facility that has ever been built. This is essentially alien-level technology, and it was all built here basically down by the Rio Grande River and close to the beach. It's an incredibly improbable location, and this used to be a sandbar. I think we're about, 3 feet or about 1 meter above sea level. It really was nothing. If you see the time lapse from sandbar to two launch towers and a gigantic rocket factory with high bays, and we're going to be building something called the Gigabay, which is like one of the largest enclosed volumes on Earth. So it's sort of like a gigantic Borg cube that we're going to be building here for building and storing these gigantic rockets. It's really spectacular, and anyone can come and visit. So because we're on a public highway, and we're literally by a public beach, you can actually come and see the rocket. You quite close up. I mean, you can drive past it, and you can also look at the factory. And anyone can do this from anywhere in the world. So if you can come and visit and check it out. So I think it's pretty cool that it's
just not right now.
Just not right now.
Just not right
Obviously
now.
not when we're launching because there's some safety issues. But the rocket's often just sitting on the pad without any propellant in it, and then you can just come here and visit. It's very easy.
Yeah, I think it's a really special place. Yesterday, the ship went down the road behind us, and I saw families outside going for on Sunday, going for their Sunday stroll, and they were greeted by Starship going down. And I think that from the very beginning, the thing about Starship, different than Falcon and other rockets that I'm aware of, is we designed it to be mass-produced and mass-produced at scale. And it's not about building one Starship and getting to orbit once. It's about doing it in a sustained and rapid way.
Yeah, we're aiming for ultimately thousands of ships to be built per year, which is what's needed in order to construct a city on Mars that is self-sustaining. And the major fork in the road of destiny will be when the Mars city is capable of surviving, even if the resupply ships from Earth stop coming for any reason. And that reason could be something cataclysmic, or it could be that that civilization simply subsided. There's always this debate throughout history of, will civilization end with a bang or a whimper? But either way, if the critical thing is to get to the point where Mars is self-sustaining and can survive even if the resupply ships stop coming for any reason, which means that you need to build an entire base of industry on Mars in order for Mars to survive. For example, it's not simply enough to build a chip, like a computer chip factory, but you need the ability to build computer chip factories. So this is going to really take a lot of tonnage. I mean, my guess is at least 1 million tons to the surface of Mars, and maybe it takes less than that, but it's going to be a lot. But this is a very exciting future. It's one which will ensure the long-term survival and prosperity of life and consciousness, and it's the critical stepping stone to get from this solar system to other star systems, and perhaps go out there and explore, and perhaps we'll encounter alien civilizations that maybe they're alive now, or maybe they enjoyed a period of prosperity for millions of years, but also died out millions of years ago. So it's humbling to think of the age of the universe, according to the standard model of physics, being approximately 13.8 billion years old. So an incremental million years would be 3 digits past the decimal point. And if you look at, say, our civilization and measure our civilization by the first evidence of writing, which is about 5,500 years ago, civilization as measured from the first writing is only 1/1,000,000th of Earth's existence.
Or blip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flash in the pan so far.
Yeah. Well, we're getting some cool shots. Rocket out on the pad right now. We tell people, like, come down, see it. It's hard to get, like, a sense of scale of just how massive this thing is. And we were able to catch somebody working on it a little while ago. And, like, part of the reason you said we're sending millions of tons, that's kind of why this thing is so massive.
I think in this image, Dan, you can actually see the person working at the bottom of the ship, and as we zoom out, you see the full ship, that sort of two-tone silver and black, and then the booster below it, right? And it really sets the scale, which doesn't come across, I think, other than in person. And when I do tours, I like to say Starship is real, Starship is big, and Starship is really big. And I think you can see there, and with the factory shots you saw earlier, again, we've got Flight 10 on the pad, but we got many more behind it.
Yeah, so I posted a video yesterday of just a brief scan of part of the Starship factory, and you can get a sense of the scale of the factory. Yeah, I guess we could talk a bit about why Starship is the way it is. Like, for example, why is half of the ship black and half of it is silver colored? And that's because the bottom half of the ship, the bottom as seen from orbital entry, has a heat shield on it. So the black there is the heat shield, and then the core structure of the rocket is a special alloy of stainless steel, and that's where you see the sort of shiny silver parts are stainless steel. The reason for steel over aluminum is that the heat of atmospheric entry and the heat of the rocket engines is enough to easily melt aluminum, but steel is much more resilient against both ascent heating, but especially the re-entry heating. And you don't have to paint it, which is actually very difficult to paint a large object that is going through cryogenic cycles and have the paint stay on. It's quite challenging.
And so we've talked about it. It's massive. It obviously takes a whole lot of energy to make that thing move. And that's where Raptor really starts to come in. Most advanced engine on the planet. Giant
yes.
lightsaber.
No, that's a lightsaber and a half. You would get vaporized in an instant if you were standing in front of a rafter. So, yeah, burnt to a crisp in less than a second. So, yeah. So, in order to create a fully reusable orbital rocket, you have to advance the state of the art in every part of the rocket. That means the engines have to be better than any engine ever. The structure's got to be better than any structure ever. You've got to you've got to have a means of bringing the rocket back to the launch pad. You've got to have a fully reusable orbital heat shield, and that no one has ever made a fully reusable orbital heat shield. The space shuttle, for example, required 9 months of refurbishment between flights. So the space shuttle heat shield would come back essentially partially broken and would require many months of refurbishment in order to fly again. What we're trying to achieve here with Starship is to have a heat shield that can be flown immediately. So the ship, both the ship and the booster, would be caught by the tower arms, and the booster would be placed immediately back on the launch stand, and the ship's got to orbit Earth at least once. But then could be back potentially in one orbit, but in most cases several orbits. So the ship would come back several hours later, but then be caught by the arms and placed on top of the booster. You could also have multiple ships ready so that a single booster could service 5 or more ships, so that you could be flying the booster in theory every hour. This is kind of a profoundly fast speed, obviously, for the largest flying object by far ever made. But it's the reason why we catch the booster with the tower arms, and the ship also will be caught with the tower arms, because that's the fastest way to get the booster and the ship back to flight. If we had instead put landing legs, which we have done before for the ship tests, we actually had landing legs that flipped down, and the ship we've successfully demonstrated landing with legs. But if you do that, if we were to do that with the booster and the ship, here we'd have to land somewhere else with the legs, then lift the rocket, stow the legs, transport the rocket back to the pad, which is very unwieldy when you've got a gigantic thing. Then it would be picked up by these tower arms and placed in the launch mount. That would delay the reusability dramatically and would add a lot of mass with the landing legs. So that's why we catch the rocket with the tower arms, because it's the same tower arms that put the rocket in the launch mount are used to catch the rocket. And that means that we can put the booster back in the launch mount in less than an hour after liftoff. In fact, the booster is going to come back very fast. 5 or 6 minutes later, this booster is coming back one way or another, or not coming back. So then you really have propellant full time, which can be brought down to about 30, 40 minutes. And that means it is theoretically possible to fly the booster again in less than an hour.
I think when I think about it, it's the jet drives up to the jetway, the people get off, new people get on, and it leaves. You don't want to land the jet on a different airfield and then tow it over to the jetway. So it's just operationally simpler and faster.
Yeah, we've had a lot of success with the booster, 3 for 3 on the catch attempts. When we bring it back, we've reflown one, so awesome. And then again, Starship superpowers, the whole thing is reusable. So ship reusability is like what we're working on right now. We've been able to get some really spectacular reentries on a couple of flights, hoping to get this one for reentry on the V2 ship. But yeah, that fully reusable heat shield, that thing that has just never been done before, that's one of the things we're really looking for that data on.
Yeah, I mean, there are thousands of engineering challenges that remain for both the ship and the booster, but maybe the single biggest one is the reusable orbital heat shield. We are confident in making a fully reusable orbital heat shield, but it will require many flights, many iterations to figure out where the weak points are in the heat shield, where we need to change the design, either strengthening the tile or changing how big the gap is between tiles. changing what's underneath the tile. There's a 100 different variables that we could tweak with the ship tiles, the heat shield tiles. But the only way to know exactly what we should be adjusting is to fly repeatedly and be able to examine the ship upon landing. And we have successfully brought the ship back through the atmosphere and achieved a soft landing multiple times. So we know that this is possible, but we have in the process shed many heat shield tiles. So we need to be able to do this without shedding heat shield tiles and do so repeatedly.
And I think what you're seeing now is the Starship. This is CG of it coming in and landing on the tower, much like the booster, but there's some additional challenges there where we need to make sure we don't scrape the tiles off as we slide along the chopstick
we can't
arms.
shuck the heat shield.
Don't crush the ship.
Rapid reusability.
If we shuck the tiles, then that's obviously going to fail the reusability test.
So ships can use the tower to land and catch, like the booster here on Earth where towers are available. And for our initial landings on Mars and other planets, we'll need landing legs that deploy, much like what you're seeing here with Ship 15 when we did our suborbital test, to prove out the precision descent landing, which was a successful test. We actually landed two. One was we were able to actually recover it, and you can see it here in the rocket garden if you visit Starbase.
Yeah, so the rocket garden that Bill mentioned, we have actually a whole bunch of boosters and ships, and we'll be adding to them over time. So you can see an evolution of Starship just by driving down the highway.
Yeah, so reusability is key. There's some other technologies we're still looking to prove out. Really big one is going to be the on-orbit refilling. Looking to do that next year, and that's really what's going to kind of unlock, Starship going everywhere else, going everywhere beyond Earth. And that's something that's, again, never been done before, kind of like that reusable orbital heat shield, but it's going to be something that's kind of some of the other secret sauce to Starship, where we're going to be able to send hundreds of tons per ship to Mars.
Yeah, I like to think of it as if we get to orbit with a full cargo bay, but we're empty on fuel and oxygen. So basically, we're running on fumes. Then we send other ships to dock, transfer propellant, and now we made our two-stage rocket look like a many multi-stage rocket. And we get all of that performance, and we can take that full cargo bay now wherever we want to go.
Yeah, so a crucial technology that we hope to demonstrate next year is this orbital refilling, much like aerial refueling. It's essential for being able to send significant payload to Mars. So you essentially send a ship to orbit with a few hundred tons of payload, sort of a filled payload bay. But once it gets to orbit, the tanks will be mostly empty, and then you send up additional tanker ships to refill the Mars ship's tanks, so that it can thrust from Earth orbit to Mars and have enough propellant left for landing. So this is orbital refilling is also not something that's ever been demonstrated before. So that would be a brand new technology. We obviously have at SpaceX figured out how to dock repeatedly with the space station. So in a lot of ways, this is like docking, and in some ways it's easier in that SpaceX is docking with its own craft, but no one has ever demonstrated propellant transfer in orbit, to the best of our knowledge, and so this would be propellant transfer at a very large scale. And but with full reusability and propellant transfer, those are the key technologies needed for building a city on Mars, and I'm confident that the SpaceX team, which is incredibly talented, will achieve these goals, and we will be landing ships on Mars in the future and building life on Mars, building greenhouses and life on Mars, and ensuring the long-term survival of life as we know it. And it's important to note here that obviously, we are effectively stewards of life here on Earth. That the other creatures cannot build spacecraft and get to other planets. So if there were to be a cataclysmic event, like a giant meteor that destroyed the dinosaurs, or ultimately the sun will expand to envelop Earth and destroy all life, we know this is an undisputed fact. Then if we don't take life to another planet, all life will be destroyed. So it's incumbent upon us to ensure that we do bring life to other planets and ensure the long-term survival of life as we know it on planet Earth.
And I mean, aside from that, there's so much that Starship unlocks by being able to do these things. Like, we'll be able to go to Mars, but there are other just transformational things by being able to take that many people, that much stuff to space for that much less money.
Yeah, I mean, I think like understanding our planet better, being able to move people around the planet, make it feel smaller and more accessible. You could go anywhere on the Earth, in less than 40 minutes, basically, in terms of flight time. So I really do see Starship as being this thing that can connect us, just like Starlink connects our information. This can connect us more physically.
Yeah. So there's really nothing faster than a rocket. Really, an orbital rocket is the fastest thing that we know of of the fastest means of transport. So, like, you could go from LA to Sydney in less than half an hour. You could go LA to Tokyo in less than half an hour. You could go from New York to Singapore in half an hour. Everything's probably half an hour, basically. Some things might be 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, yeah, sign me up for that, please. All right, cool.
Cross the Atlantic in 10 minutes, no problem.
Please, yes, sign me up.
You're going 25 times the speed of sound, so that's 30 times faster than a commercial aircraft.
And it's a whole hell of a lot better view.
Yeah, it's a hell of a view.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anything else, guys? Anything else?
Well,
we
could say a lot more.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go check in on the rocket and get on console.
We're going to go back on console to hopefully the weather supports a launch tonight. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for your support.
All right. Obviously, that was really cool. There's probably not anybody else cooler on the planet to talk Starship with. Still very ready to sign up for that point-to-point travel too. Also, though, it's really hard to relay just how much power is being generated by these engines on this rocket. We try to compare it to something like a little bit closer to home for people. We've used an airplane a lot of times. That's just something a little more tangible to folks.
Yeah, if you were to stack Starship up against one of the biggest airplanes out there today, the 747, just one Raptor engine is double the thrust of all 4 airplane engines. Super crazy to think about. And the Super Heavy on the pad right now, which has 33 Raptor engines, is putting out as much power as about 64 747s.
Yeah, it's, again, just a tremendous amount of power. World's largest flying object. It's crazy. And again, that was really cool to just go through that. I love to geek out as much as everybody else over all the nitty gritty, but always important to remember there's a lot of people that just don't know that all of this is happening. So it's cool to remind them, cool for everybody else out there to help us spread that word. All right. So right now we are 17 minutes, 12 seconds and counting until the 10th Starship flight test. While we do have a moment, though, let's check in over with Tyler Lionquist over in Hawthorne for the latest on Starlink. How's it going, Tyler?
Thanks, Dan and Amanda. I'm Tyler Lionquist, and I'm a Starlink business analyst here at SpaceX. Starlink is SpaceX's low Earth orbit, high-speed internet that's bringing connectivity both on Earth and in space. Now, for today's mission, Starship is outfitted with 4 Starlink terminals, allowing us to get live views of ship while in orbit and all the way down to splashdown in the Indian Ocean. Our Starlink satellites are built in Redmond, Washington, which is also where we monitor the health of the entire constellation. So let's take a quick look for more on Redmond.
What a lot of people might not realize when they think about the scale that we're operating is that actually 2/3 of the operational satellites in orbit are Starlink satellites. And then all of those Starlink satellites came from right here in Redmond. We've currently got a constellation of over 8,000 satellites that are flying around in orbit. So they're working together to fill out the whole surface of the Earth, make sure everywhere can have service. So we have these laser links that are connected between the satellites, so each satellite can pass data from one to the other. That is what allows us to have these hundreds of gigabit links between satellites, and that's what allows us to connect every corner of the Earth to high quality, high speed, low latency internet. When you think about that Starlink that you have at home, the technology that's in there and that's in your antenna is very similar to the antenna that's on the satellite. We use what are called phased array antennas, which is a fancy way of describing an antenna that's made up of many little antennas that work together in order to direct their energy to a specific spot on the ground without a motor.
Generally, satellite manufacturing is a very slow process. It takes people weeks or months to build a satellite. At SpaceX, we iterate very fast, and we have learned how to build satellites at the 70 sats a week rate. As we have focused a lot on production rate, we have not forgotten about our satellite reliability, which is critical to our mission.
If you look at the whole world and you ask, where is the satellite industry? It's right here in the USA, in Redmond, where the vast majority of satellites being built are being built right here. Starlink is a truly game-changing technology, and it's all supported by the global satellite constellation from this space here in Redmond. And we're really just getting started at the very beginning of what we want to do with Starlink.
Now, as we mentioned earlier in the show, one of today's objectives is for SHIP to deploy Starlink simulator satellites that represent the advanced V3 satellites Starship will be launching in the future. And as you can see here, once Starship reaches a nominal orbit, the payload door will slowly begin to open to prepare for deployment. The Starlink satellites will be dispatched relatively quickly, one at a time, like a Pez dispenser, as you can see on your screen. They'll be situated in one long stack, taking up as little space as possible, allowing for an efficient deployment sequence. Once a set of Starlinks are deployed, the next set advances and deploys until they are all drifting away from Starship to prepare for their on-orbit life. Each Starlink V3 launch on Starship is planned to add 60 terabits per second of capacity to the Starlink network. That's more than 20 times the capacity added with every V2 mini launch on Falcon 9. So we're talking about a massive increase in performance all around, which will ultimately enable Starlink to serve as the communications backbone of the missions to the Moon and to Mars. So for now, we're going to turn it back over to the team at Starbase.
Thank you so much, Tyler. Okay, let's turn our attention to today's flight profile, which will feel familiar because it is. We're looking to get our first re-entry with this iteration of SHIP, and we're again intentionally stressing Super Heavy during its return. The next generation booster is on the horizon, so the objective is to push and learn all we can from this current version.
All right, let's jump right in. As always, it's going to start with liftoff. Super Heavy ignites 33 engines lifting off from Starbase and ascending. It's going to power that ascent for about 2.5 minutes until we get to hot stage separation. Super Heavy shuts down all but 3 engines, deeply throttles the remaining ones, stage 2 lights its, and flies away. We have stage separation, a directional flip. It's going to descend. We're going to do some landing burn experiments and then do a splashdown in the Gulf.
Meanwhile, SHIP continues on with its ascent burn, again reaching a planned suborbital trajectory. We'll attempt to deploy 8 Starlink simulator satellites and then head back for re-entry, where we'll be testing multiple experiments, including missing tiles, metallic tiles, and intentionally loading the vehicle's flaps. SHIP will also attempt a flip maneuver, and if all goes as planned today, we'll conclude the test with a soft water splashdown in the Indian Ocean. So that's what we have on deck for Flight 10, which is just about 11 minutes, 40 seconds from launching.
That's right, and so just a quick status check-in. So as you said, we're about 11.5 minutes away. We have some good news. We got our latest range and weather status, and surprise, everything is looking green today.
Thank
so
goodness.
that's the biggest news that we were looking for. Again, weather is the main watch item for today, but we are green right now. We're not tracking any issues with the vehicle or ground systems, so we are looking pretty good for launch. We did all of our normal pre-flight checkouts with all the different vehicle and pad systems. At this very moment, we're almost done, or we're pretty far into our prop load on SHIP, and a little bit more to go on the booster.
Yep, looking closely, it looks like we're nearly closed out on SHIP, like Dan said, about 70% of the way through on both methane and LOX on the booster side. We'll continue loading prop for a while. We'll close out at about T-minus 30 minutes, 20 seconds on SHIP, and then 30 seconds later, we'll finish up loading prop on the booster.
Yeah, so bottom line, a little over 10 minutes to go. range is green, weather is green, vehicles looking healthy. We're looking good to launch right at the top of our window at 6:30 p.m. Central Time.
Can't wait. All right, now let's quickly talk about Mars, since everything we do is part of our foundational mission to get to the red planet. Each Starship launch is to learn more and more about what's needed to make life multiplanetary and to improve ship to the point where it's taking millions of people to Mars.
Yeah, we've shared the plan previously in the last couple of months. We're looking to start sending the very first Starships to Mars next year. These missions, not with people. We're just looking minimally viable landers. So let's just prove that we can get there. And so we're just going to focus on learning as much as possible, but looking at all of those different phases, you know, prop load, prop transfer on orbit, sending stuff out to Mars, doing the transit, doing the entry, and just doing a landing.
And in our next window, around 2028 to 2029, we're going to attempt to land the initial infrastructure and start delivering more equipment as well, while evaluating available resources on the red planet. And we will also have Optimus on board for the ride, who is designed to do the initial heavy lifting.
Well, looks like we're doing some flap checkouts real quick on the ship as we are coming up on 9 minutes. Back to Mars, though. Those wrap up by about 2030, 2031. Continue to increase the payload per ship, build out more infrastructure out there on Mars's surface, start to mine some of those resources, set up some propellant generation plants, build up some fuel and some oxidizer to send Starships back from Mars. By the time we get all the way to 2033, we're looking at double the amount of payload we're sending with each ship as we get closer and closer to building a self-sustaining presence on the red planet.
Yeah, definitely lots of exciting missions ahead of us, and these are going to be crucial to setting up what we'll need for humans to eventually inhabit the planet, and we won't be doing this alone. The Italian Space Agency and SpaceX recently signed a first-of-its-kind agreement to carry Italian experiments on the first Starship missions to deliver customer payloads to Mars. So these payloads will include a plant growth experiment, a weather monitoring station, and also a radiation sensor to gather scientific data during Starship's approximately 6-month interplanetary coast phase from Earth to Mars, and also on the Martian surface.
It's a really exciting mission, makes showing up for work really fun for us. We're going to need to launch a whole lot more, though. So while we're just under 8 minutes away from launch today, let's head back over to Tyler Hawthorne, talk a little bit about how
После завершения расследования потери Starship во время 9-го летного испытания на Маре, связанной со статическим пожаром на Ship-36, были внесены изменения в аппаратное обеспечение и эксплуатацию для повышения надежности. Предстоящий полет продолжит расширять рабочий диапазон ускорителя, запланированным многочисленные испытания на посадочный импульс. Он также будет решать те же задачи, что и предыдущие миссии, включая первое развертывание при загрузке Starship и несколько экспериментов по возвращению верхней ступени на стартовую площадку для захвата. В рамках этого испытания ракета проведет ряд летных экспериментов, чтобы собрать данные о реальных характеристиках будущих профилей полета и нештатных ситуациях. Ускоритель проведет эти эксперименты на траектории полета к точке посадки в заливе Америка и не будет возвращаться на стартовую площадку для посадки. После разделения ступеней ускоритель развернется в контролируемом направлении, прежде чем включить двигатель. Этот маневр был впервые продемонстрирован в ходе 9-го полета и требует меньшего количества топлива в резерве, что позволяет использовать большее количество топлива во время подъема для вывода на орбиту дополнительной массы при загрузке. Основными целями ускорителя будут посадочные импульсы, использование уникальной конфигурации двигателей. Один из 3 центральных двигателей, используемый на заключительном этапе посадки, будет намеренно отключен. Для сбора данных о способности резервного двигателя и среднего кольца завершить посадочный импульс. Затем ускоритель перейдет на работу только на 2 центральных двигателей в конце посадочного импульса, перейдя в режим полного зависания над поверхностью океана, после чего они выключатся и он упадет в залив Америка. Корабль снова будет нацелен на выполнение нескольких задач, включая запуск 8 имитаторов Starlink, сопоставимых по размеру с спутниками Starlink следующего поколения. Имитаторы Starlink будут находиться на той же суборбитальной траектории, что и Starship, без горя при входе в атмосферу. Также планируется повторный перезапуск одного двигателя Raptor в космосе. Летные испытания включили в себя несколько экспериментов, направленных на обеспечение возможности возвращения корабля на стартовую площадку. Значительное количество плиток было снято со Starship и расстреляться уязвимых зон по всему аппарату во время входа в атмосферу. Несколько вариантов металлических плиток, в том числе одна с активным охлаждением, будут испытывать альтернативные материалы для защиты Starship во время входа в атмосферу. По бокам аппарата установлены функциональные фиксаторы, которые будут проверять тепловые и структурные характеристики фитингов, а также участок линии плитки, получивший сглаженный конический край, для устранения горячих точек, наблюдавшихся во время входа в атмосферу во время 6-го летного испытания Starship. Летное испытание продолжает предоставлять ценные знания для разработки следующего поколения Starship и своих тяжелых ракет. Благодаря наращиванию производства на заводе Star Factory на базе Starbase и активному созданию новой пусковой испытательной инфраструктуры в Техасе и Флориде, Starship готов продолжать работу над созданием быстрой и полностью многоразовой системы запуска. Вот, по статусу подготовки к полету на отметке 19 минут 40 секунд до запуска было начато охлаждение двигателей. Далее, на отметке 2 минуты 50 секунд до запуска полностью должна завершиться заправка как и ускорителя, так и корабля. Сегодня это сегодня. Тут, ну, запуск запланирован на 26 по местному времени, на 26 августа, получается, начиная с времени UTC, нет, по UTC еще 26 августа, а начиная с UTC плюс 1 и далее, это уже до 27 августа. Вот. Да, конечно, рванет, а как иначе, блин? Чтоб в Старшипе ничего, и все было идеально, нет, быть такого не может. Как бы, ну... Что у нас еще нового тут? А ничего. А вот. То же, что и всегда. Где? SpaceX была основана на убеждении, что будущее, в котором человечество исследует звезды по своей сути, гораздо более захватывающее, чем будущее, в котором этого не происходит. Сверхтяжелый Скайди на стартовой площадке прямо сейчас, который оснащен 33 двигателями Рапторами, вырабатывает мощность эквивалентную примерно 64 самолетам Boeing 747. Комплекс космических запусков 37 на мысе Канаверал имеет богатую историю в космических полетах и вскоре станет частью запуска Starship из Флориды. О, быстренько, пока мы успеваем, а у нас даже есть анимация. А, ну, вроде это все уже видели. Это нам уже показывали, да. Ну, может, не конкретно такую анимацию, но похожую. Так, что у нас далее? Все сегодня хорошо с погодой, на данный момент, по крайней мере. Был, понятное дело, тест закрылок во славу банана. Также, как же без бананов. И есть завершение загрузки топливом. Все, давайте, подпаривайте свой фитилек и скоро долбанет. 2 минуты до старта остается. Тайо. Так, давайте сделаем. А! Что такое по качеству? Почему, когда я нажимаю на настройки, оно... А, нет, все, сейчас нормально. Ладно. Итак, все, у нас остается 1,5 минуты до запуска. Смотрим запуск 10-го испытательного интегрированного орбитального полета Starship Booster 16 и Ship 37. Сейчас, наконец-то, надеюсь, точно смотрим.
It's my favorite view of the rocket.
Right under the launch mount. All right, so we've got crowds gathered out at Hawthorne, crowds gathered here at Starbase.
Super fun to see people getting to watch out on the front lawn now.
1 minute to go to launch. All right, so again, our hold point comes up at T-minus 40, not tracking any reason to stop there, so we should see us go right through that. All right, We are through T-minus 40. We are counting down. We're going to let our flight director, Maciek Batura, take us the rest of the way. 30 seconds, the 10th liftoff of Starship.
T-minus 15. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Booster chamber pressure nominal.
All right, we're a little over 40 seconds into flight. 33 out of 33 wrapped engines.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Казалось бы, да, 10-й полет уже, чему тут удивляться, но все равно реально, как в первой, эмоции одни и те же. Оно летает, все 33 движка работают. Так, сейчас у нас уже будет момент максимального аэродинамического сопротивления. У нас вот тут прям новое вот это показание ориентации в пространстве. Собственно, справа снизу мы видим телеметрию скорости и высоту, слева телеметрию работы двигателей первой ступени, а также ориентации в пространстве. Ну и посередине таймлайн. Так, и дальше у нас будет разделение ступеней. Сначала будет выключение 30 из 33 двигателей первой ступени, потом зажигание 3 вакуумных двигателей второй ступени, разделение ступеней, затем зажигание 3 атмосферных двигателей второй ступени, потом разворот первой ступени и зажигание 10 двигателей из центрального кольца до первой ступени для маневра Boost Back Burn. Ожидаем.
3 engines still firing on Super Heavy will flip the booster around. 10 more engines will ignite for the boost back burn, putting the first stage on the path for splashdown in the Gulf. As we mentioned earlier, the hot stage will be jettisoned for this flight, and that should occur just after the boost back burn. So we're about to shut down the first stage and perform hot staging. So let's just watch and listen.
Офигеть, виды просто, боже. Ну, виды с верхнего плавника при... Вот как он так двигается, это прям вообще, ну, нечто просто. Так, сейчас будет разделение.
Alright, seeing the engine start to throttle down.
Miko.
Есть выключение 30 двигателей ускорителя. Есть зажигание двигателей корабля, всех 6 двигателей.
Boost back burn startup. Stage separation.
Есть разделение ступеней и повторное зажигание 9 из 10 двигателей первой ступени для маневра Boost Back Burn.
Stage separation confirmed. We've got 6 engines running on ship. Booster is doing its boost back burn, continuing now.
Следующий этап, что у нас будет, это, собственно, сама посадка ускорителя. На высоте примерно 1100 метров над океаном будут зажжены сначала 13, точнее 12 работающих двигателей на первой ступени. После чего они перейдут на 3 двигателя, после чего один двигатель из вот этих 3 выключат, попробуют запустить один двигатель из тех 10, а потом перейдут вообще на 2 двигателя, зависнут над океаном, потом выключат двигатель, он должен уже упасть в сам океан. Так. Так, есть завершение маневра Boost Back Burn. Что-то синее в двигательном отсеке. Надеюсь, не метан.
Down, so that's the first of the 2 burns after a launch that the booster is going to do today. So now it's headed towards the Gulf. It's not going to be quite as an aggressive of a flight down. We relax that angle of attack a little bit, but we are then going to be looking for it to do its engine tests for the landing burn, and those are going to be a little unique this time.
Yeah, typically we start with all 13 inner engines lit for that landing burn and bring that down to just the center 3. But one of our test objectives for today is to simulate what an engine out situation would look like. So we're going to be intentionally turning off one of those center 3 and instead lighting one of the engines from the middle 10 ring.
Yeah, we did see one of those engines in the middle ring shut down during the initial ascent. Oh, looks like we have hot stage jettison. You can
Есть сброс также кольца горячего разделения.
the left of the booster. Yeah, we did see one of those middle engines shut down during the ascent. Again, we are resilient to engine out on Super Heavy. That's why we're able to get through our ascent. Starship flying on the expected path. There's still a chance that engine could be back in the mix for the very start of the landing burn, so we'll see if we light up all 13. But we've even done a landing burn at the tower with an engine out, so.
Челы, не хочу нагнетать, но, по-моему, корабль начинает закручивать вокруг своей оси.
Right, so we got a couple of minutes. That landing burn start should be just about 40 seconds away. That's always rad. You can see the boost plume itself in the background as it was coming in.
Так, 10 километров высота. Сейчас будет посадка ускорителя августа 16 в американский залив. Смотрим.
Ship Raptor chamber pressure is nominal.
All right, here we go.
Landing burn startup.
Looks like we got 12 of those 13.
Down to 3, including one of the middle ring.
Давай, сволочь, садись. Давай, скотина. Они перешли на работу двигателя вот этого из того кольца. Так, два двигателя, зависание. Зависание,
Nice little hover.
И давай,
landing burn shut down. And into the Gulf, here we come.
Ну и все.
And the booster has splashed down.
Ну, сработало вот это, то, что они сначала выключили один из тех 3 двигателей, потом перешли на работу из того кольца, где 10 двигателей, а потом вообще, они реально на 2 двигателях, он тупо висел ровно на месте. И потом они выключили, он упал, связь потерялась, ну, по крайней мере, камера, ну и, судя по всему, он все. А, нет, с кораблем нормально все, его дальше не крутит, они, походу, просто его развернули вот так вот. Ну и далее у нас, собственно, должно быть выход, на суборбитальную уже запланированную траекторию, отключение сначала 3 вакуумных двигателей на корабле, а потом и 3 атмосферных. Ожидаем.
Yeah, these views are looking great. Once again, thanks to Starlink for getting us these views. It's just incredible. And we just heard the sound from Booster.
It's like we just got a late boom from the booster.
Yeah, we have ship engine cutoff coming up here just shortly. And as we mentioned, today's flight test is not an orbital flight, but rather one that demonstrates Starship's orbital capability.
Starship is on terminal guidance.
All right, entering the final phase of this burn. Under 30 seconds to go. All right, shut down the vacuum engines.
Так, здесь выключение вакуумных двигателей.
Ship engine cutoff.
We shut down those
И здесь
center
выключение
3.
атмосферных.
Successful ship engine cutoff.
Да ну! Да ну! Чё тебя не закрутит даже? Да ну нет, да быть такого не может. Да ну нафиг, его даже не крутит. Я не верю. А, так, нет, это тесты плавников. Это плавники, все нормально. Да, ускоритель слетал идеально. Значит, если этот ускоритель сел идеально, значит, в следующий раз точно будут ловить в руки ваше обслуживание уже. Боже, они когда начали двигать плавник вверх, я уже подумал, что это корабль крутит. Так, где у нас там таймлайн, что у нас там дальше будет? Ух. Ну уже, блин, полет, нифига себе. Так. Так, все, он залетает на темную сторону Земли. Он должен сделать полный оборот над темной половиной Земли. Ну, он начнет входа в атмосферу еще по темной стороне, но уже сама посадка будет как раз, ну, где-то на рассвете в Индийском у нас океане. И следующий этап, что у нас будет, это на отметке 18 минут 27 секундах попробует открыть дверцу грузового отсека. А на отметке 25 минут 32 секунды, собственно, попробует выгрузить сами спутники своих. Ну что, ждем 18 минут 27 секунд.
Space. We've done this once before. This is not necessary to deorbit, as we are in a suborbital trajectory, but this is essentially a chance to test out what we need to be able to do a deorbit burn. So we'll be doing that a little bit later in the flight, about 37 minutes or so into the flight, and then we get into reentry. We're looking to get that light show and, more importantly, get that really critical data about the ship's heat shield.
Yeah, exactly. At about T plus 45 minutes, we'll be heading for reentry. Again, running those experiments with the tiles. We're going to be doing missing tiles, metallic tiles, and also intentionally loading those vehicles' flaps. Hopefully, we'll also see a splashdown in the Indian Ocean today.
Yeah, we were able to get to a reentry last time, but we didn't have full attitude control, so we weren't able to go in, heat shield first the way we're designed to. So we ended up losing contact with the ship before we could make it all the way through. So you still get data, but you're not really getting the data that we want to make sure we're kind of stress testing the vehicle. As Amanda just said, we removed a bunch of tiles, and we do this in some intentionally scary places on the vehicle because we're really looking, are there spots that were vulnerable to this? Before we ever start moving towards, putting ship into a full orbital mission to then do reentries a little bit later on. So really, really critical to get that data, really looking forward to a controlled reentry.
Yeah, for sure. As we always say, our main payload is data, but today we also have some actual payload on board, and those simulators that Starship will be deploying, we'll see coming up here in just a few minutes. These are dummy satellites that are about the same size as our V3 Starlinks. We have 8 in the Starship PEZ dispenser and expect to deploy at a rate of about 1 per minute, as Dan mentioned earlier. Starlink is critical in all of our flights on Starship to get our main payload data, as we always say. And in fact, it's Starlink that's currently providing these views you see as Starship cruises a couple hundred kilometers above our home planet and provides real-time telemetry through every phase of flight.
Yeah, we took a peek inside of the Starship payload bay there for a second. So there's 8 of them there. They kind of look just big steel plates, essentially. They're roughly the same size as those V3 satellites. When we do get that view inside of the payload bay, the payload door will kind of be on your right, and we'll start to see them go out like a PEZ dispenser. Yeah, here's a look inside. So those right down there in the center, they're kind of 2 stacks of 4 on either side. and then the payload door is just to their right. And so we'll look to see that open, and then those satellites start to go. We vent the nose cone, so we essentially bring it down to vacuum before we open the door. That was one of the things we ran into on the last flight, as when we had that fuel diffuser fail, the pressure in the nose cone became basically too high for the actuator of the door to open. So that's why we weren't able to get the door open that time. We have not seen anything like that on this flight. Everything's looking good with our fuel tank and our fuel press system. So we are hopefully just a couple of minutes away from seeing that payload door open and getting to our first ever payload. It's not the first payload we've ever carried, but it's the first one we're going to try and shoot off into space. All right, so I think we're supposed to open the payload door in just about a minute and change. And you're seeing a little bit of residual gas. And we opened the door once. I want to say it was back on flight 3 when we were able to make it up into space. And you'll kind of see a lot of that gas rushing out into the vacuum of space. It's the residual that's left over after we've already vented it down. So kind of a cool light show. And then we'll get ready to deploy those payloads out. And as we mentioned, so we have crossed over now at this point into an orbital nighttime, so views from the outside will get pretty dark. But we'll see what we can see. We do this by design. We've been launching these later in the day here in Texas to try and get daytime views when we splash down. So it's daytime over in the Indian Ocean, where we are currently headed.
Just a few seconds until we expect those payload doors to open.
All right, one more time. Open the pod bay doors, Hal. So we are currently in payload deploy prep. And the door is open.
И есть открытие двери грузового отсека. Да ну. Да быть такого не может, чтобы и он нормально летел, и чтобы дверь грузового отсека открылась. Да, трэш. Судя по всему, это полета на 18 минутах, скорее всего, начнут выгрузку, они откроют дверь, а на 25 минутах закончат, они начнут.
Ship has transitioned to payload deploy.
Да ну, оно двигается. Нихера себе. Нихера. Да ну, офигеть. Поехал.
There we go.
Нифига себе. Да ну. Поехал спутник выгружаться. Ракет Старлинка. Все в эфире. Оно работает.
Pew pew. Been waiting way too long to do that. There we go.
И до побачення.
There goes another one.
До свидания.
Super exciting moment, as you can hear the energy in both Hawthorne and Starbase. Everyone's super excited for finally getting to deploy some of those simulated satellites.
Pez system moving down. Next row. There we go. As we said, we're going to do about one every minute or so. And this is just kind of a dress rehearsal for when we're going to be deploying the V3 satellites. And these are just a massive, massive increase to Starlink's capability. Each one of them has, it's 60 terabits per second of capacity that's going to get added to the network per launch. That's 20 times more than what we're adding with every single Falcon 9 launch today, which, you know, step increase in capability. There goes another one.
Поехал дальше следующий. Следующий. Выгружаться. Что-то встал. Что-то... Ой-ой-ой. Назад поехал. А что происходит? Все закинули. Все.
All right, so as we said, we've got 8 total that we're going to go through today. It's about a minute for each one, but looking good on payload deploy.
Поехал обратно. О, доехал. Все, давай, летайте. Проклятие Starship V2 подтверждено. Все основные этапы фазы запуска завершены. Впереди тесты на орбите, которые уже происходят. Ускоритель будет совершаться и выполнить все основные задачи, но есть вопрос касательно отключения одного из рапторов во внутреннем контуре еще во время подъема. В этот раз без утечки метана. К сожалению, для некоторых.
3 Starlinks on Starship. We're going to be flying about 60 each time, so it'll be about an hour to get through a full stack, but again, it's just going to be a massive increase in the amount of bandwidth. It's going to enable, you know, gigabit upload, download for people with Starlink, you know, anywhere on the planet. And for us, Starlink is just a tremendous part of just the Starship flight test program.
Yeah, absolutely. Always getting us that data, and yeah, the amazing views we have on the vehicle today.
Yeah, views brought to you by Starlink of us deploying Starlink simulators before we deploy actual Starlinks. How deep does it go? All right, another one firing out. Pez looking smooth today. right, looks like we've got one left.
Almost there.
Yeah, there you go, one remaining, so 7 of the 8 have been deployed, one more to go. And then we will have completed our first ever payload deploy operation. Just a reminder, we're on a suborbital trajectory. These satellites on that exact same suborbital trajectory, they're gonna burn up entirely. They're on that same trajectory towards the Indian Ocean. So the last one has been deployed. Starlink simulator payload complete. Heck yeah, everybody.
Loving the energy from Starbase and Hawthorne.
There, yeah, now it's empty. Looking a little lonely, but
Successfully deployed all the simulator satellites.
really, really cool to see them all out there. Again, people that have...
И у нас есть отделение по среднего спутника, макета спутников Starlink V3. И следующий этап, что у нас будет, это на отметке 37 минут 48 секунд. У нас будет попытка зажигания одного атмосферного двигателя Раптор по движению. Против движения разворачивать не будут, как при настоящих орбитальных полетах. Но чисто, чтобы протестировать зажигание двигателя Раптор для схода с орбиты в будущих полностью орбитальных замкнутых полетов, включится ли он вообще. Ну да, с 10-го раза дверь смогли открыть, если учитывать все полеты. Ну, по выходу на орбиту в 5-м я не помню, их везли или нет. Ну, 7-й... короче, там же, да, были действительно случаи, когда дверь именно заклинивала. И не раз. Короче, вернусь на отметке 37 минут, когда будет зажигание двигателя Раптор.
And reminder, it's the world's largest satellite constellation operating in low Earth orbit to deliver high-speed, low-latency broadband internet. This provides internet access to people all around the world, many of whom had never had connectivity before. Today, Starlink serves more than 150 countries, territories, and other markets, with over 6 million active customers and counting. To meet the growing global demand for high-speed internet, SpaceX expanded its factory in Bastrop, Texas, and also introduced Starlink Mini, as well as an upgraded version of the Starlink standard kit.
All right, now with payload deploy complete, Starship is now going to close its payload bay door and continue to coast towards Earth, around Earth, towards the Indian Ocean. Sorry, I'm really excited today. We are in space, people. Still a lot of major events to come, though. We are looking to relight one of those Raptor engines at about 37 minutes, 33 seconds into the flight, followed by atmospheric entry, hell of a light show, and splashdown. So we're going to go on a quick break, take a quick coast, sit back, enjoy the views. A little bit dark now, but they'll get better soon. A couple of space jams. We'll be back in just a few minutes for that Raptor relight and then re-entry. See you soon.
Итак, чуть более чем через минуту на отметке 37 минут 48 секунд должно быть зажигание одного атмосферного двигателя Раптор в космосе для теста маневра схода с орбиты. Хоть его не будут разворачивать против движения, как в настоящих сходах с орбиты. Про то, что на кадрах из отсека огромную часть поля зрения занимал КФП, ну да. Так, ждем зажигания.
Done this once before. This is something we're really going to have to do when we're doing orbital missions. So it's a pretty critical test. We are just a couple seconds away. Sorry, we're about 20 seconds away, psych. So we got a little bit more time. So we are going to see one of those Raptor engines light back up. We are through the deorbit demo gate, so we should be seeing it momentarily.
Relight demo startup. And shutdown.
All right, looks like we confirmed the relight of one of those center Raptor engines. Second time we've done.
Это не плазма, я не знаю, что это, но это точно не плазма еще. Не может быть плазма аж на 150, да не. Он еще даже не повернут тепловым щитом, какая плазма. И да, у нас есть зажигание одного двигателя Раптора атмосферного для теста маневра схода с орбиты успешное, буквально несколько секунд. И следующий этап, что у нас будет, это на отметке 47 минут примерно должен уже начаться уже точно тотальный вход в атмосферу. Вот, на этом отметке в 00:17 по UTC я и вернусь. Ожидаем вход в атмосферу.
For re-entry at about T plus 45 minutes, so we're going to take another quick break and we will see you soon.
Starship is slowing for entry. Starship is approaching entry interface.
О, а вот теперь у нас уже точно есть плазма, и у нас начинается вход в атмосферу космического корабля Starship 37 в миссии IFT. Боже, куда я зашел? IFT-10. О, вот двигаются плавники. И следующий, значит, отметка у нас будет на... Где? 1 час 3 минуты 15 секунд. Он уже будет на околозвуковой скорости. Еще до этого он или примерно на этой отметке, ну, короче, на высоте примерно 20 километров. Он перейдет из вот такого вот положения по наклону примерно 60-70 градусов в полностью горизонтальное положение. Вот. Короче, ожидаем, что он там будет дальше. Так, все, есть вход в атмосферу. 100 километров прошли.
45 minutes into the 10th flight test of Starship, and as you can see, the light show has started. Re-entry has begun. We are starting to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. We're moving.
Вот, как мы видим, плитки тепловые щита с внутренней стороны плавника поотламывались.
Today, but if we do make it all the way down to the water, who knows? But the goal of this part of the flight is to learn as much as we can about the ship's heat shield. A fully reusable, rapidly reusable heat shield for a spacecraft has never been done before. It's one of kind of the hardest engineering challenges still out there for us. And so this is the time to really dig in and get that data.
Yeah, absolutely. And re-entry is a critical phase of flight, so we'll need information on how the ship's system end up performing. And Starlink will also help us gather as much data as possible, which is really the main reason why we do these flight tests. Starlink provides us with one more path to collect data to help us rapidly iterate on Starship's design. And if the ship manages to make it all the way to re-entry, we'll collect valuable data on the spacecraft flying through the Earth's atmosphere at hypersonic speeds, or more than 5 times the speed of sound.
Yeah, throughout history, a lot of times this is when you go into just a complete data and insight blackout, where that plasma sheath builds up around the outside of the spacecraft that blocks all of your signals that are trying to fight through to talk to either satellites out in space or towers down on the ground. Starship's big size kind of gives us awake, but What really helps us punch through is the fact that we're using Starlink. We're operating at just a much higher
Ё-моё, это
frequency.
что такое?
That's not what we want to see. So we just saw.
Все, конец ему. Вот и приехали. Вот и приехали. Это что за хрень? 88 километров, только ему уже хреново. Там тупо двигательный отсек просто посыпался. Ё-моё.
In kind of critical places across the vehicle. So seeing stuff like that is still valuable to us. We are trying to kind of push this vehicle to the limits to learn what its limits are as we design our next version of Starship. So 47 minutes, 45 seconds into the flight, excitement ticking up a little bit on re-entry already, but the light show is continuing. This re-entry is going to take about 20 minutes or so until our planned splashdown. We were trying to splash down about 1 hour and 6 minutes into the flight.
Yeah, and one day Starship is designed to land on Mars, where there are obviously no runways or other humans to help us out. So we are doing propulsive landing instead of more traditional means such as parachutes. And propulsive landing enables us to have more rapid reusability with these vehicles.
Yeah, the ship itself, it's a little over 50 meters tall. We've got those 6 engines on board, the 3 vacuum, the 3 sea level, and they're down in that aft skirt region, which
flaps have control.
All right, so at this point, the flaps have control. That means we're getting into a dense enough part of the atmosphere that the flaps can start controlling us. We're not only reliant on those kind of reaction control system thrusters.
We're going to continue hearing some callouts as the ship makes its way back to Earth. So when we hear entry max heating and entry max Q, that will mean the ship has made it through the maximum heating and aerodynamic loads it will experience as it returns. So if it makes it through those, we can say we're doing pretty well.
I will say I'm happy re-entry cleaned off this camera for us. It was a little dirty from the weather, so thank you, Plasma, for giving us this view as we start coming down. The hit we saw to the skirt, definitely interesting. I will note, when we started doing these missing tile tests, we were intentionally removing them only in the skirt, as that's, you know, that's not over your fuel tanks or anything else. That's kind of structurally critical for keeping the entire vehicle together. That obviously exposes your engines, so that could do some things for our landing burn. But for now, we are obviously continuing with this re-entry. We are committed. Indian Ocean, here we come. 50 minutes since launch. As those colors start to build up a little bit. We are at the point where we're in dense enough atmosphere that the flaps have control. It's all about 74 kilometers in altitude. You were starting to see some sunlight, so we intentionally time these launches right now so we have daylight. The sun should actually come up over the horizon on Starship in about 3 minutes. So as we get a little bit further into this re-entry, that inky black below you is going to start to look like clouds and hopefully a bright blue ocean as we make our way down onto the other side of the planet.
О, плавник начинает разлетаться.
We've got these cameras. These cameras are really cool. We added these several flights ago, looking directly at the flaps as not just the heat shield, but these flaps, how they're able to control the vehicle, withstand that re-entry, the seal locations, so kind of where they connect to the ship itself are some of the most critical. We will do missing tiles on those where, again, we're trying to... We're kind of being mean to this Starship a little bit. We're really trying to put it through the paces and kind of poke on what some of its weak points are. I mean, we even have missing tiles over some of those fuel tank sections of the ship itself. And so we're really trying to see what are our limits. We're doing this over a completely empty area over the Earth. Look at our Raptors there. We are assuming we make it all the way down to the ocean in one piece, we will attempt a flip and a landing burn. We do have at least one buoy, everybody's favorite camera person, out in the Indian Ocean right now, being powered by Starlink. So that's at our planned landing location. So if we're able to get any live views of the ship, that'll essentially tell you that we nailed our target. Able to do that on our 6th flight test, do it in the daytime, which was really exciting.
Если ты предвиденный отсек, то там ничего не рвануло. Это, скорее всего, тупо, ну, от нагрева от атмосферы, потому что, ну, иначе ничего быть не может там реально.
Right, so we're about 10 minutes until we're probably going to start hearing some of the other big milestones coming up.
And said, Starship will be transonic. This is going to be the period of flight where the velocities of airflow surrounding and flowing past the vehicle are concurrently below, at, and above the speed of sound, so somewhere in the range of Mach 0.8 to 1.2. For reference, commercial jets have a range of cruising speeds, but most of them fly at speeds between Mach 0.74 and Mach 0.85, so that's 480 to 575 miles per hour or 770 to 930 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, and after transonic comes subsonic. That just means you're slower than the speed of sound. We're still well in excess of that right now. But by the time we hit subsonic, we're essentially belly flopping down. There we go. There's that sunlight. So we're seeing the Earth now come back into view. One of the other things we're doing during this, and you're going to see Starship kind of pitch in some pretty, not extreme ways, but a little extreme, as we're trying to really stress the structure of it, of the ship itself, specifically those aft flaps, so the ones in the very bottom of the vehicle. We're pushing not just how well does the heat shield hold up, but how well does the ship structure hold up. We are pushing it beyond essentially what we think we'll have to fly at to do something like a return to launch site. So again, may not be a very smooth ride downhill, but we're doing that by design. We're really trying to find what are the edges that we can operate at, build up a good data set. But sun is up, clouds and water down below us. We are just about 10 minutes away.
А тем временем у нас есть вход уже наконец-то на светлую сторону Земли. Продолжается вход в атмосферу космического корабля Starship 37 миссии Starship IFT-10. Скорость составляет 21 600 км в час. Слева сезонность телеметрия в 163,3 км. Справа телеметрия по положению в пространстве. И также перегрузка всего лишь 0,7G. А я напомню, то, что мы смотрим, да, прямую трансляцию 10-го испытательного орбитального интегрированного полета Starship 37, бустер 16, Ship 37. Вот, после завершения расследования потери Starship во время 9-го рядного испытания аномалий, связанных со статическим пожаром на Ship 37, были внесены изменения в аппаратное обеспечение эксплуатации для повышения надежности. Этот полет продолжает расширять рабочий диапазон ускорителя, запланированы и произошли многочисленные испытания на посадочный импульс. Он также решил те же задачи, что и предыдущие миссии, включая первое развертывание полезной нагрузки и несколько экспериментов по возвращению верхней ступени на стартовую площадку для захвата. В рамках этого рядного испытания ракета провела и проведет ряд рядных экспериментов, чтобы собрать данные о реальных характеристиках будущих профилей полета и нештатных ситуациях. Ускоритель провел эти эксперименты на траектории посадки в американском заливе и не был возвращен на стартовую площадку. После разделения ступени ускоритель развернулся в контролируемом направлении, прежде чем включить двигатель. Этот маневр был впервые продемонстрирован в ходе полета 9 и требует меньшего количества топлива в резерве, что позволяет использовать большее количество топлива во время подъема для вывода на орбиту дополнительной массы полезной нагрузки. Основными целями испытания ускорителя был посадочный импульс и использование уникальной конфигурации двигателя. Один из 3 центральных двигателей, используемых на заключительном этапе посадки, был намеренно отключен для сбора данных о способности резервного двигателя и синего кольца завершить посадочный импульс. Затем ускоритель перешел на работу только 2 центральных двигателей в конце посадочного импульса, перейдя в режим полного зависания на поверхности океана, после чего он выключился и упал в залив Америка. Корабль снова будет нацелен на выполнение нескольких задач, включая запуск 8 имитаторов Starlink, сопоставимых по размеру со спутниками Starlink следующего поколения. Имитаторы Starlink находятся на той же суборбитальной траектории, что и Starship, и сгорят при входе в атмосферу. Также произошел повторный запуск одного двигателя Raptor в космосе. Летные испытания включают в себя несколько экспериментов, направленных на обеспечение возможности возвращения корабля на стартовую площадку. Значительное количество попыток было снято со Starship для старости уязвимых зон по всему аппарату во время входа в атмосферу. Несколько вариантов металлических плиток, в том числе одна с активным охлаждением, испытываются для испытания альтернативных материалов для защиты Starship во время входа в атмосферу. По бокам аппарата установлены функциональные фиксаторы, которые будут проверять тепловые и структурные характеристики фитингов, а также участок линии плитки, получивших слаженный конический край для устранения горячих точек, наблюдавшихся во время входа в атмосферу во время 6-го летного испытания Starship. Вот, у нас успешно произошел сам запуск, работа 33 двигателей, хоть потом один и отключился. Рождение ступени на 2,5 минутах, посадка ускорителя в американский залив на 6 минутах 40 секундах, выход корабля на суборбитальную траекторию и выключение двигателей на отметке 8 минут 57 секунд, начало отделения макетов спутников Starlink на 18 минутах, которое продлилось 7 минут. Запуск двигателя в космосе для теста маневр схода с орбиты на отметке 37 минут 48 секунд. И начало входа в атмосферу началось на отметке примерно 45 минут. И далее на отметке 1 час 3 минуты 15 секунд Starship уже должен быть на околозвуковой скорости. И тогда он перейдет из вот такого вот наклона примерно 70-80 градусов полностью горизонтальное положение. И там нижнему плавнику вообще капец уже. Высота еще 53 км, скорость 15 тысяч км в час, перегрузка уже 1,8 G.
Just about 48, 49, counting down to 48 kilometers an hour.
Ну а пока еще у нас есть время, поговорим про следующие запуски. Что у нас там будет? А там мало чего интересного на самом деле. Я даже эти, короче, старинки на Falcon 9 озвучивать даже не буду, потому что их будет до хрена. Ну вот ближайший будет сегодня в 11:10 по UTC. Вот. Затем, из интереса, 28 августа в стартовое окно с 12:30 по UTC по 19:30 по UTC запланирован запуск ракеты New Shepard с грузовой беспилотной миссии NS-35, который был запланирован еще фиг знает сколько дней назад и множество раз уже переносился. Затем до конца августа еще должен состояться суборбитальный запуск ракеты Electron с миссией Jake-4. Вот, 11 августа, то есть, 11 сентября в 13:49 по UTC должен состояться запуск ракеты Союз-2-11 с грузовым космическим кораблем Прогресс МС-32 на Международную космическую станцию. И 15 сентября в 22:00 по UTC запуск ракеты Falcon 9 с грузовым космическим кораблем CRS NJ-23, также на Международную космическую станцию. Тем временем Starship S-37 продолжает вход в атмосферу, скорость 7400 км в час, высота 41 км. Ну все, уже в целом все, атмосфера пройдена, но нижним плавникам все еще капец, но плазмы уже нету.
All right, flaps earning their paycheck today, getting through kind of that max stressing.
Definitely things looking good so far. We're about 2 minutes out now from Starship becoming transonic.
One cool thing to note as we get some of those views showing kind of the whole length of the ship, one of the changes we made after Flight 6 was to change the tile line a little bit. So we had kind of scaled back the number of tiles significantly. As when we go to catch these ships, you don't want to. I think as Elon said, you don't want to shuck the ship as you catch it and knock all those tiles off. So we knew.
Которые в будущем будут ловить Starship руками баши обслуживания.
Was on Flight 6, and we saw kind of wrinkling and dimples almost in the ship as we were creating these hot.
Starship S-37 успешно прошел тесты по дополнительной нагрузке на плавники и без потери управления.
That we smoothed it out. That's why you've got kind of that nice smoothed out black line now on the ship. And just looking at it, we can see kind of a little bit of hot spot, a little bit of warping almost. Near the payload door, you can see a little bit of colored patina up above it, but we don't see those kind of deep, almost, they almost look like gouges.
Пиковая нагрузка составила всего 2,3 G. Ну, это очень мало на самом деле при входе в атмосферу. Ну и понятно, с такими-то размерами, блин.
Way from hitting transonic. Again, pretty soon our forward velocity is going to look like it's kind of falling off a cliff, and Starship will look like it's falling off a cliff as we essentially go into our belly flop. If you watched some of the high altitude tests or suborbital campaigns, we were able to test that. It was a pretty fundamental, like, can this thing actually fly? And we were able to prove that out with that suborbital campaign, and that's what we're about to see shortly here. All right, so at this point, we've dropped below the speed of sound, so Starship itself is subsonic.
И все, Starship перешел на дозвуковую скорость, и вот, как я и говорил, на высоте примерно 20 км он переориентировался в полностью горизонтальное положение. И далее на отметке, вот он уже дозвуковой, на отметке вот 1 минута. Ой, 1 час, 6 минут и 14 секунд у нас начнется уже сама посадка корабля Starship S-37 в Индийский океан. У нас будет переворот и начнется зажигание 3 двигателей. Затем они перейдут на работу всего лишь 1 двигателя и совершат само приводнение. Зажигание двигателя начнется на высоте примерно 600 метров. Ожидаем.
All right, so coming up in just a little under 2 minutes, so we're going to do the flip and the burn. So we're only using those 3 center Raptor engines, the sea levels, the ones that can kind of gimbal, that can move around and steer. Dipping the nose down a little bit. Got 2 of our engines chilled in, waiting on 1 more. So again, we'll attempt to use 3 burns for that initial flip. We eventually go down to just 2 Raptors for the end of the landing burn.
Just about 1 minute now from that landing flip and landing burn start.
И началось охлаждение двигателей перед посадкой.
Structurally, we're looking good. Got good pressures in our nose cone for everything. Just about 30 seconds. So again, we're going to look for the flip. So Starship's doing its belly flop right now. We're going to do the flip. Swing it.
И вот то, ради чего, собственно, этот маневр belly flop и создан, то, что он падает в горизонтальное положение. Вы посмотрите, насколько низкая скорость. Если бы он падал в вертикальном положении, скорость бы была не менее 900 км в час. То есть 3 раза меньше скорости, но меньше топлива для посадки нужно, который сейчас уже будет.
Seeing 3 engines. There's our flip.
Чё там? Во!
There's a buoy. There's a splashdown.
Мы все
Hey.
Капец, это быстро было вообще. Ну, вы видели, скорость при посадке при зажигании двигателя составила порядка 250 км в час. Это вообще очень мало. У Falcon 9 при намного меньшем весе скорость перед зажиганием более 900 км в час. И благодаря этому получается сэкономить примерно в 3 раза количество топлива для посадки. И увеличить грузоподъемность примерно на 30-40 тонн.
So congratulations to the team at Starbase and everyone here and around the company. So many employees have contributed enormously to the Starship program as we continue to iterate and make progress towards a multi-planetary future. So that's going to wrap it up for us here in Hawthorne. Thank you to everyone for tuning in today. It was great being with you today. Back to you guys.
That was absolutely incredible. Huge congrats to all the teams here. Again, we lifted off from Starbase, Texas, right at the top of our window at 6:30.
Сказать Шавакер, это, конечно, ничего не сказать. Миссия флаг действий официально завершена. Есть успешная посадка Starship 37 на вводу в нужной точке. Первая полностью успешная миссия Starship V2. Но и, кстати, поскольку полет прошел успешно, реально вполне возможно, более чем, то, что следующий полет, как и говорит Илон Маск, состоится уже примерно через, 3 недели вряд ли, но там через месяц или там через 5 недель, как было между 5-м и 6-м полетом, вполне, более чем, я думаю.
All of our teammates here at SpaceX. It's been a year. Everybody that's worked on this program, this is what we're working for. So big congrats to all of them. Thank you to all of our future customers too for your support.
And we'd also like to thank the fine people of Cameron County, including the residents of its newest city, Starbase, as well as the Coast Guard, the Federal Aviation Administration, the government of Mexico, and the Australian Space Agency.
И, кстати, там на ветреная сторона корабля была вся тупо красная, он весь тупо погнутый, там это капец. Да. То есть ему очень плохо, но он все-таки выжил. А, кстати, они ж по факту в следующем полете могут не только ускорить и поплавать, словить, а и корабль, он же успешно сел. Да ну, да ну. Так что вполне возможно в следующем 11-м полете мы наконец-то действительно увидим первую ловлю корабля. Это еще будет полет Блок 2, поэтому да, могут попробовать. В следующем полете у нас, скорее всего, полетит бустер 17, да, последний ускоритель из этого Блок 2, который у нас уже прошел 2 криотеста еще в апреле месяце. И Starship 38 полетит. Также последний корабль второй версии, который также прошел 2 криотеста еще в прошлом месяце этого года. Либо же они могут даже использовать, кстати, бустер 15 попробовать, который летал в 8-м полете. Но тогда им придется ускоритель не ловить в руки бачи обслуживания, а также опять топить в океан, поскольку, в прошлый раз, когда они летали, запускали повторный ускоритель, то он успешно не приземлился, а разлетелся. Поэтому для безопасности придется с его... Если они будут использовать ускоритель, который уже летал, то нужно будет его топить в океан. Ну и все, как мы видим, официальная трансляция у нас закончена. Да, не прошло, блин, и 9 месяцев между первым полетом блок 2 и первым успешным. То есть, ну, это капец, блин, конечно. Ну и все, я также буду заканчивать прямую трансляцию. Боже, что там в чате случилось опять? А, не. Ой, нет, все, короче, в любом случае, сегодня, завтра, ну, до конца августа в 100% я проведу прямую трансляцию по разбору этого полета, также повторим его в КСП, хотя нет, подождите, в КСП мы его не... А смысл его повторять в КСП, кстати? Это, ну, то, что я показывал на первой попытке запуска в КСП, оно ж все ровно так и случилось. Действительно, поэтому повторять его смысла нету. Ну и поэтому все. На сегодня уже все, да. Всем спасибо за просмотр и всем пока. У меня 3:43 ночи.